Ekaterina and Rodion tied themselves in marriage a few years ago. It is not uncommon for couples to distance themselves from friends and social gatherings after entering married life, but it was different with Katya. She had been friends with Nadia since high school. Although Nadia was shy, she was always able to come up with unique ideas, some of which were so strange that even Rodion had to dissuade his wife from participating in them. Fortunately, after Katya got married, Nadia slowed down a bit and stopped dragging her friend into dubious ventures. Katya continued to spend time with her friend, albeit with slight adjustments due to her married life. However, joint events with the participation of her husband are a different story. One Saturday during their usual meeting in the Central Park, Nadia excitedly exclaimed, "There's a terrific concert coming up next weekend, and we should definitely go." Katya agreed on the condition that they didn't stay out late. "Sure, don't worry, we'll be free by 10 o'clock, Nadia replied. "I can't wait to make the most of my time there. And who knows, maybe I'll even meet someone." Her thoughts were dreamily cut short. It should be noted that Nadia was actively looking for a life partner. All her friends were already married, and she felt like an outcast. She tried everything from online dating platforms to striking up conversations with strangers in grocery stores and queues. However, her shyness was often a problem in these situations, despite her attempts to appear different. While the internet and online socializing gave her some solace, she wasn't particularly lucky in that area either. The day of the concert came. Catherine assured her husband that she would be home by 11:30. Out of politeness, she even invited him to keep her company, although she knew that he was not a fan of such events. Meeting Nadia at the appointed time, Katya was at first taken aback. Her friend was dressed in the most colorful and eye-catching outfit imaginable. Her wife questioned her friend about the upcoming outing, unsure of how to handle possible encounters with men. She wondered if she should reject their advances or how to behave. Her friend assured her that she would give her support and help her cope with the situation, realizing that she was no longer interested in dating. Although her friend's words reassured her, her wife's calmness lasted only an hour. She was distracted for a moment and noticed a man approaching her friend, followed by another stranger. It became clear to her that her friend had not kept her promise. Feeling like a traitor, she prepared herself to face the situation. Her friend approached and whispered in her ear, reminding her to play along and communicate casually. After hesitating, the wife agreed. The men introduced themselves and offered drinks. Her friend Nadia was charmed by the new suitor and was ready to agree to anything. But the wife, Katya, on the contrary, remained skeptical. Meanwhile, Maxim, her friend's suitor, tried to win Katya over with polite conversation. Despite his attractiveness and charisma, their communication remained ordinary, without pressure and insinuation. A few days later, Nadia suggested meeting at their favorite restaurant after work. Concerned by her friend's nervousness, Katya inquired about the situation. Before Nadia could answer, new acquaintances came to their table. It became clear to Katya that her friend had arranged a double date without her knowledge. Remembering the previous case, when her friend had proposed an unusual partnership, her wife had mixed feelings, realizing that this time her friend had chosen a different strategy. When she was on the verge of scolding Nadia, Maxim approached her with a charming smile. At that moment, she forgot about her anger. They were having such a pleasant conversation that Katya unknowingly took off her wedding ring for the evening. She wanted to feel liberated, especially in the company of such a charming man. A week later, Katya went on a date with Max, keeping it a secret from her husband. She was afraid to admit to herself that she had feelings for another man. Despite her initial intentions to end the relationship after each encounter, as they went beyond simple walks and dinners, she became more and more immersed in them. As Katya's feelings for Max grew, her husband couldn't help but notice the change in her behavior. It was as if she became immersed in her thoughts and often seemed distracted. One evening, she returned from work very late, which caused her husband concern. Just as he was about to look for her, she came in. Her husband greeted her with a hug, happy that she was safe. However, as he buried his face in her hair, he smelled the unfamiliar odor of male cologne. Intrigued, but deciding not to engage her immediately, he decided to observe her further. As she freshened up and changed into her nightclothes, Rodion noticed a hickey on her chest, a detail that couldn't be overlooked. Realizing that there had been no intimacy between them for a long time due to her constant fatigue, he concluded that another man had left the mark. With calmness and rationality, he asked his wife who her lover was, if indeed she had one. The unexpected question took her by surprise, and she was momentarily speechless. She stared at her husband with her mouth ajar and tears in her eyes. She knew she couldn't defend herself or make excuses on the fly, so the timing was perfect. The wife couldn't hold back any longer. Through her tears, she began to explain that she didn't know how it happened, but a chance encounter with a friend had turned into an affair. She admitted to the double date, expressed regret, and apologized. The husband was caught off guard by the flood of information and remained silent the entire time. When the wife cried, she looked at her husband with hope in her eyes. She was too embarrassed to directly apologize or wonder if they could save their relationship, but her look spoke volumes. Finally, her husband sighed heavily and said, "No, Katja. This is the end. I will never forgive you for such a betrayal. Pack your things, get dressed, and leave." Another wave of tears threatened to spurt from her eyes, but the man gestured for her to hurry. She tried to object or do something, but her husband simply left the room, leaving her alone with her suitcases. In the evening, Katja left the house close to midnight. He did not go into the details of her infidelity to understand the reasons for it because it was useless. He saw the problem, and the only solution he saw was divorce. For a week, Katja mourned the loss of her marriage, seeking comfort from her friends. Eventually, they convinced her that perhaps it was fate, that coincidences were not random. Maxim, the man with whom she had been having a passionate affair, found out about her marriage. Now that she was officially single, she was free to continue her relationship with him unhindered. However, just as she came to this realization, Maxim discovered that Katja had been hiding her marital status from him. He was outraged by her deception, and when he learned that her husband had kicked her out of the house, he lost all interest in her and stopped answering her calls. It was then that Katja truly felt abandoned.